Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss. Fireworks on Capitol Hill with Kash Patel's testimony before the United States Senate. Kash Patel now says that based on what he's seen, the FBI's position now is that Epstein was not involved in a sex trafficking ring regarding other powerful men, that he just acted as a lone wolf. That's what Kash Patel is going with. You had Kash Patel, when he was questioned by Senator Schiff, just basically started yelling and saying, "You're corrupt, you're a fraud, because he didn't want to answer basic questions. He also admitted that he's been using the FBI jet that the taxpayers pay for to, well, one thing is he lives in Las Vegas. He's refused to move to Washington, D.C., where the FBI headquarters is. I mean, just think about that, Cohen. Like one of the biggest jobs out there in the United States, and you won't move from your house in Las Vegas to be by. You have to work remote. And just think about it. This is a Trump regime.
And then he turns around and he tells them that he's saving the U.S. taxpayer money.
And the whole thing with the Trump regime is they've been mocking people who work remotely. And the guy works remotely from Vegas. And taxpayers have to pay for a private jet where he's like bringing Mel Gibson to UFC fights. So we'll show you some of those clips. The Trump regime shot down not just 2, but now we learned 3 Venezuelan fishing boats. Donald Trump this morning said that there was a third boat that we haven't seen that one yet. They don't provide any information about who's on the boat. They haven't went to the American people to explain why it is that you have to kill these individuals 1,500 miles or more away from the United States on 24 feet fishing boats that don't even have fuel to get to the United States. So we'll talk about that. Trump's going to the United Kingdom. He held a bizarre press conference in front of the White House this morning before leaving, which we'll talk about as well. He's, more lies from him, Cohen, about the EU is paying us $950 billion. This one's paying us $600 billion.
$650 billion. It's so funny because you and I have talked about this. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Japan, who is the 4th largest economy in the world, is merely $4.5 trillion. So technically, they're paying what? 12%,
more, yeah,
12.5% of their GDP to the United States. How come I'm gonna with that one called bullshit?
Yeah, and then you have an Australian reporter asking Donald Trump this morning a very fair and legitimate question. How much money have you made while you've been in office? And do you think it is the right thing to do, an ethical thing for you to do, to be making billions of dollars off of your position in the White House? So the story broke from the New York Times. They did a really good report on how Trump's family business, World Liberty Financial, where they brought this token public. They got a $2 billion infusion by the United Arab Emirates. And then it just so happened that the United Arab Emirates got access to top secret United States technology regarding semiconductor chips, which prior administrations, for national security purposes, wouldn't turn over because it could then easily be transferred to China or elsewhere. So the Trump regime denies those two things were related. Others are suggesting it's a quid pro quo. But anyway, Trump yelled at the Australian reporter, Cohen, and said, basically, you've screwed up the relationship between the United States and Australia.
And wait till your president comes here, who's coming next week. I'm going to tell him. It almost reminded me of something so juvenile, right? I'm telling your mom, right? Or I'm going to the teacher. And, he did not like the question. Let's be clear about that. Ask the individual about their accent. When they said Australian, they were like, oh, you're ruining everything between America and Australia. I
By that question, you've ruined it. So everybody, we have a lot of Midas mates, Midas Down Under Australians who watch this show and watch the Midas Touch Network. They know that Donald Trump is looking for an excuse to further attack Australia and to pull out of the AUKUS deal, the Australia, UK, US nuclear submarine deal. So what this, Trump's been intentionally ignoring the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, of the Labor Party there. The prior Labor Party, or not prior, but a prior Labor Party Prime Minister who is now the ambassador to the United States, made comments about Donald Trump after the insurrection. So Donald Trump has this very kind of anti-Australia view. So that's what you saw there. And then finally, Cohen, we're going to talk about all of these things. Donald Trump was asked by ABC, by John Carl, so are you going to, what does it mean when your attorney general says she's going after hate speech? Does that mean people who you don't like what they say? And Donald Trump's like, yep, like you. He's like, yeah. I'll probably come after you. And
he said, let's not forget that I got your company to pay me $16 million. Maybe they're going to be coming now after you, as if Jonathan Karl, by asking a question, just opened up the floodgates for yet again another lawsuit predicated on, I don't know, defamation, slander, libel. I don't know. But I will tell you what I do know. Jonathan Karl stood his ground. That's certainly for sure. Because not only is Jonathan Karl completely confused about the Attorney General's comments, the President's comments, Kash Patel's comments, all of these acolytes' comments, that hate speech is not protected by the First Amendment. And Ben, I'm very much disturbed. As somebody who had their First Amendment constitutional rights violated, as somebody who was sent to prison because I refused to waive my First Amendment constitutional right, the first question that started popping up into my mind, who makes the determination first and foremost on what hate speech is? Ben, is what you do on Midas Touch Network, is what this conversation here on Political Beatdown with our brigaders, does this constitute hate speech? Who is it that makes the determination? And if and so that's the case, that Pam Bondi, Trump, Stephen Miller, I don't know who is it that is going to be making that determination. What is the penalty? Is the penalty death? Is it deportation? You lose your citizenship? Is it a lifetime incarceration in Supermax? I don't know. And that's what concerns me the most.
Well, I think you do know what Trump wants the answer to be, right? He wants it to be exactly political beatdown, Midas touch, independent media that criticizes him. New York Times writes a bad article about him, or a truthful article, across the board, because what he likes to see is he wants to see all media be right-wing media. We are seeing the consolidation of around media at a corporate news level becoming, I mean, already was, but just all right-wing. And if you don't say nice things about him all of the time, this is what we see in authoritarian regimes. That's absolutely what he wants. So let's go through some of that, Cohen, and just show the receipts, show what he's saying, so our brigaders can see, okay, like we're coming with the facts and the data. Let's start outside, Jeremy, at the White House lawn. The First Amendment is absolutely under attack. A reporter asked Donald Trump, what do you make of Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, saying she's going after hate speech? It's Jonathan Karl asking this question. Watch Donald Trump's response. Let's play that clip.
That'll come to a vote, but we'll see what happens. And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
You probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be.
That right there is a direct threat.
It sounds like a threat to me, right? Maybe that they have to go after you. You know, look, nobody likes to have bad press. I get it, right? And there's always going to be one side versus the other, no matter what. I mean, regardless of whether or not Trump believes in what he's doing or he takes the exact opposite side. If he took the flip side on any one of these positions, rest assured there would be the MAGAs that would, or the Newsmax, the OANs, or maybe even Fox News would take a negative position on it. So there's always somebody that's going to criticize you. That, my friends, is the role of the president. You're not supposed to think about, you know, whether you're getting good press or bad press, whether or not, you know, it's favorable that it blows smoke up your ass. No, you're supposed to be thinking, what am I going to do, in my opinion, as president of the United States, that will inure to the benefit of America? Right? I mean, isn't that what it's supposed to be all about? There's always going to be somebody that's not going to ascribe to that position, so you will always receive negative. Imagine what is being said right here. Either you all write what I want you to say, because that's the only way that it will not be considered hate speech. So what's the point on having independent journalism? What's the point on having a New York Times, a Wall Street Journal, a Reuters, an AP? What would be the point? Basically, it would be like what Russia has, which is called Pravda, which in Russian means truth, which contains no truth at all. And it's technically written by the Kremlin and then promoted as news. So everything Donald Trump does is the greatest. He stopped, again, 7 wars. It was a conversation that he had regarding, of course, the continued attacks in Ukraine by Russia, but he's now stopped. There was a Ukrainian reporter that asked him a question, but I love it when he turns around and Kash Patel tries to do it, and all of these Trump acolytes try to do it. You know, Ben, I stopped 7 wars. You know this, right? Well, what are you supposed to say? What they should be saying is, no, sir. In fact, I don't know that to be accurate. Would you like to discuss the 7 wars? Because, I don't know, India, Pakistan, they turn around and they say that you had nothing to do with it. So then it would be 6. Do we want to start talking about the other wars that you're talking about? Serbia, Croatia, et cetera, et cetera. Could we break it down? But nobody follows up. And nobody follows up because they're afraid of being alienated. And that is not a free press.
You know, these aren't minor things that he lies about. They're the biggest, most significant life or death things that he makes up fake numbers about all of the time. The way he did when he was sued for fraudulent valuations. He was criminally prosecuted for business records fraud. You testified in that case. He's bankrupted numerous companies in the past, which he himself has to disclose on his SEC forms. But again, when he says that he's brought in $17 trillion already, and the deficit last month went up by about $350 billion. And for this fiscal year, the deficit will have increased by about $2 trillion. Had he brought in $17 trillion, then we would have had a surplus this year of $15 trillion, which would be great. And if he did that, that would be incredible, heroic, It would allow our country to get out of the shackles of debt that, frankly, the first Trump administration put us into more debt than ever before. But just there's no aspect of it that's even tethered to reality. I mean, when you say you stopped 7 wars and you claim that you stopped the India and Pakistan war, or that you created peace in Congo, you didn't do that. I mean, there are dozens of people dying right now every day in Congo being caused by an ISIS group that's in Congo. It's less safe. And what his promise was that there would be peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. And we saw again Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Donetsk. I mean, we're seeing all these attacks. The attacks are increasing. Donald Trump occasionally, when pressed on Russia, says, I was being sarcastic. It was a joke. I didn't really mean that I would do it. It's tougher than I thought it was going to be. But could you imagine if that was something that former President Biden ever said? I mean, could you imagine?
No.
I think, Cohen, this right here was the Australian reporter. This clip is making its rounds. Asen from our team clipped this one, where Trump warns an Australian reporter that he is hurting Australia because he asked a question about Trump's finances. Here, play the clip.
That is inappropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone.
Well,
go ahead, John.
When
Maybe
you
can set a nicer tone.
When the UAE does a deal, what does it want in return?
Quiet.
Mr. President, what are you hearing about the operation?
He's just a dick. He's just a dick and a bad guy. Just
quiet.
It's
just ridiculous. I mean, sometimes this stuff is so ridiculous. It's like if I turn around and I said to you, "Yeah, you stopped 7 wars." You know what? It's not really true. It was only 6 because I actually flew over to the Congo. All right, and I single-handedly stopped it. If you don't believe it, here, watch. Look, I can do anything. I can carry. This.
That's you. It's real.
Yeah. That's me right there. What happened is this car fell out of the sky. It was driving on, it was basically what's called roof surfing, right? Roof surfing is when you go ahead and you drive your car from top of roof to top of roof in Manhattan, right? You build ramps and you just keep flying like Evel Knievel. Well, this one didn't do so well, but good thing that I was there on the ground to catch it because it was filled with 6,000 puppies. All right. And yeah, I stopped the whole thing. And that was after I flew back from Congo. And when I say fly, I'm talking about myself. I personally flew there. That's how ridiculous. And they want you to believe these stories. I mean, that's the whole thing. And you turn around and you're laughing and you're saying, this is the stupidest thing. What is this, like from the movie, that Netflix show, The Boys, right? Or, I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's like right out of Marvel comics. I mean, it's so silly. And nobody pushes back, except you have an international journalist who asks a question, and now you're hurting Australia. You idiot journalist, you're setting a very negative tone. I don't like your tone. Wait till your leader. First of all, I mean, there is no supreme leader of Australia, right? I mean, it's an elected position. But wait till your leader comes here and I speak to him and I tell him about you, right? So what do you think is going to happen? Well, he wants to get along with me. Maybe he'll send you to those concentration camps that we just built in El Salvador. I mean, this is how crazy this conversation is getting. It is literally, nobody should show up to these things anymore. Because if, God forbid, you ask a question that he doesn't like, or a Kash Patel or a Nancy Mace don't like, some of the ridiculous and some of it becomes vile. It just is over the top. And you know what? It makes America look stupid in the eyes of the world.
Yeah, because that's how stupid people behave. Like, that's not how smart, strong, powerful leaders behave. I mean, that really is moving outside of the realm of politics. Like, that's just how pathetic, weak criminals behave. The yelling, the bullying, it's like mobsters. Like, who acts like that? Who wants to deal like that? I did a video on the president of South Korea, President Lee, who, he had that meeting in the Oval Office. A trade deal wasn't signed with South Korea, despite Donald Trump claiming there was a trade deal. He then spoke at this Security Institute conference, and he said to the crowd, the president of South Korea, "I was worried when I was going to the Oval Office that Donald Trump was going to pull a Zelensky on me, because Donald Trump had made some social media posts before I arrived about my government prosecuting Christians in South Korea based on something that some right-wing extremist group in South Korea had put in front of Donald Trump." So he said, "I was worried he was going to pull a Zelensky." And just think about that at the world leader level, that's a phrase that they use, that when you go to the Oval Office, Trump will pull a Zelensky and try to attack you in front of the international press and get into a public fight with you. Meanwhile, South Korea is now potentially going to pursue human rights abuse charges against the United States for kidnapping over 300 South Koreans in Georgia, where Trump's ICE Gestapo sent militarized vehicles, raided the Georgia plant that Hyundai had put billions of dollars into to train American workers. And all those South Koreans got on a plane, they left, they said, "See ya, we're never coming back." And now that factory is going to sit vacant as a result of Donald Trump.
Can we talk about that? Let's not undercut the stupidity of the move by Tom Homan on this. Yes, they rounded up how many hundreds? 300, 400?
Over 300. I'm sorry, 316, I think, is the final number.
Okay, over 300 South Korean workers at the Hyundai plant who here in America were manufacturing parts, selling them in America, parts, meaning we now just cut off our nose to spite our face because these Hyundais actually need the parts. So where are we going to get them from when you need them?
You're going to get them from overseas where they have tariffs.
Canada, are we going to get it from, we're going to get it from South Korea itself? Where are the parts coming from? As opposed to the ones that were being manufactured here. So instead of, I don't know, how many billions of dollars do you think was coming out of that factory, out of that plant? Now, as Ben just correctly stated, they are going to shutter the place. They're going to close the doors, lock it until they can end up now finding skilled labor within which to reopen this plant, assuming ever. So how stupid, Ben, is that as a move? From a business perspective, forget about the fact that these folks were all here on work visas. But let's put the whole immigration stuff to the side. From a business perspective, how stupid is this?
It's as stupid as you can be, but that's one of the problems with this overall trade war against the world policy. It's based on Donald Trump's whims, and it's not actually, like, I think that there is a surgical use of tariffs that could actually be used in a beneficial way. If you look, for example, at country X is dumping all of these products super cheap into your markets, being subsidized, let's say, by country X government in order to try to cause economic harm in your country. There are anti-dumping issues. It's called dumping, where they try to flood your market with really cheap goods to cause economic pain in your country, where you may not be subsidizing private industry the way a foreign country can. So in that case, you may go, "Oh, we see what you're doing, country X. we're going to create a tariff of 25 to 30% to make sure that our domestic importers are disincentivized from buying. And then there's another regime of sanctions and trade policies that you can have. And you can say, wow, country X has built the most incredible electric cars. If we start allowing our citizens right now to buy that, it's going to screw up our electric car industry, and our auto industry is going to crash. It's what we do with BYD in China. So maybe there's a way to deal with that and to try to stop it. So I'm not like anti all tariffs in every situation, but the way Donald Trump uses it and says, first off, every country in the world gets a 15% base tariff. And then depending on how you suck up to me, then I decide if it stays 15 or if it goes to 50. I don't like that Brazil is prosecuting their insurrectionist president, Jair Bolsonaro. So even though we have a trade surplus with Brazil, you get a 50% tariff. India, I don't like that you didn't award me or recommend me for the Nobel Peace Prize. You get a 50% tariff. That is the issue here, and then it becomes this incomprehensible policy that makes Americans here suffer the most because we have unstable, business depends on stability. And if you go speak to business owners of any size.
But did you see the question that he asked to another journalist? Well, do you know what the tariff is? And he goes, yeah, it's 20%. No, it's 30. It's 30. In fact, it becomes up as high as 50%. He's literally arguing with a journalist. By the way, here's the saddest part of that answer. And what the journalist should have said, Mr. President, nobody has a fucking clue what your tariff rates are because they have never yet been itemized and given to the American people. We are all fucking clueless. That's what he should have said. But instead, and I give the guy respect, he showed the president of the United States respect, which of course you probably should, regardless whether you like him or not, right? I'm just trying to be bipartisan here, but he literally starts arguing with the guy over what the tariff rate is. So he goes, I don't know. And then it went from 30% to 50%. I mean, nobody knows. That's the whole problem because there is no tariff policy. The tariff policy, as Ben just once again correctly stated, it is predicated on the president's whims. Whether you kissed his ass good enough on Monday for Tuesday's tariff to go down to 15%, or you didn't do enough ass kissing, so now it's 30% or 40% or 50%. Nobody knows. There is no policy here that you can go Google in order to find out. There is charts that they spent some money on to have manufactured, but those charts have changed now at least 3 or 4 times.
In as many months, every month there is a change. And one of the things that we saw, I think it's called the Empire State Survey, that the Federal Reserve looks at to determine something called CapEx, CAPEX spending, capital expenditures, building factories. And this is what, if you listen to Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent, they'll say, CapEx is through the roof. We're seeing all of these investments in factories. The data reflects the exact opposite, that CapEx is at its lowest point in terms of expenditures in over a decade. And the labor market sentiment amongst business owners about hiring people, because the businesses are uncertain what the policies are around tariffs to be able to predict what their profit margins are, businesses are not hiring, not to mention groceries and prices are going through the roof right now. And anyone who's in the job market or who's out and about and opens up a door and has to leave your home and doesn't live in this White House Club Rose Garden bubble that Donald Trump lives in, we all know what's happening. And what I just want to capture, Cohen, is the facts, the truth, nothing but the truth. And I sure, if you go through my views, you'd probably say, Ben is a liberal guy or a progressive, based on how those terms are typically understood. But I don't go around like thinking like, oh, I'm Ben, the liberal and the progressive. I go around in this world navigating it, trying actually not to be that much of a political person. I become political when these radical MAGA politics gets in the way of my logic, but I just try to approach it and go, did we bring in $17 trillion? Oh, we didn't? Wait, I'm being lied to there?
You don't have to be liberal. You don't have to be conservative. You don't have to be progressive. A fact is a fact. You know, there's that old adage, numbers don't lie, people do. I want to be crystal clear, as Ben is trying to as well. We did not take in $17 trillion in the 6-7 months since Trump has become president. All right, or 8 months since Trump has become president. We have not. Okay, plain and simple. And anybody that believes that we have, I have a bridge, no, 2 of them to sell you, because it is a lie. All right, when people turn around, and again, numbers don't lie, people do. When they tell you that the president of the United States has stopped 7 wars, that is not true. It is not true by a long shot. Here's the facts. Why is it today, Ben, that acknowledging and accepting fact is a curse? In fact, I want to say one more thing. If by chance, Ben, you continue to dispute, as I just did, the number of wars that the president has stopped, if you continue to dispute that $17 trillion has come into the United States from foreign investment, that the president solely, single-handedly has the right to decide where that money gets spent, if you continue to dispute that, if you talk about it, if you write about it on the Midas Touch Network, you could be charged with a hate crime. That's how crazy this has become. I will lie to you. You will accept my lie, because if you don't, there will be a reprisal. That, my friends, is not a democracy. That is a dictatorship.
And, you know, the 7 to 10 wars. I mean, one of the things that Trump is the best at, the best in the world, maybe one of the best of all time, is lying and being a fraud. And he realized that he had to have an answer to the atrocities in Gaza and the atrocities in Ukraine. And it wasn't a good answer to say, I was being sarcastic and joking about it when I said we would bring peace in 24 hours after the election. So he navigates, and he because he says so much word vomit, it's like the expression of throwing mud against the wall and seeing what sticks, right? He word vomit. Spaghetti. I think it's mud, whatever it is. Or Jello, ketchup with Donald Trump. Anyway, you know, you word vomit it out, and then you see what actually is effective, and you go, okay, the 7 to 10, that he doesn't care if it's believable, because he just knows if you say the same thing over and over and over again, his base will believe it. You can come up with any lie. It's just for him, it brings him back to the homeostatic lie state that he has, where when he's asked about Ukraine and Gaza, pivot, 7 wars, 10 wars becomes the answer, versus, wait, things are getting a hell of a lot worse in Ukraine. And if it could even imagine that it's getting worse in Gaza based on the atrocities that were committed before, it's getting a whole lot worse. And I saw, you know, even statements by Netanyahu today. It's like, we're going to build our own security apparatus now that the world is isolating us and not giving us weapons, so that we're just going to, you know, the atrocities in Gaza are getting so much worse. I remember Donald Trump speaking in Dearborn, Michigan. I remember the Muslims or Arabs or Palestinians for the different, for Trump things during the campaign. They gave him like a peace rock at one of these like Muslims for Trump events. I remember it vividly. We're giving you this peace rock because you promised that you would bring peace to Gaza. He's made things so much worse. And not only that, but the Israeli airstrikes in Doha against in Qatar, really is causing major issues there, as major diplomatic issues there as well. And anyways, but let me just show this.
Let's not put the two together, right? Because the strike in Doha, that's one thing. They actually were targeting Hamas, even though, yes, I acknowledge that it was on foreign soil.
But here's the thing, Cohen. They say that. But
right.
I just like, how do we trust anything that Trump says he shoots a boat?
You cannot. That's the whole problem. But the part that I say we need to distinguish is right now you have the Israeli Defense Force, and I am pro-Israel. I want to be clear about that. But what I am not pro the destruction of the Palestinian people, the genocide of the Palestinian people. I have many friends. One of my closest friends since 1984, they are Palestinian. And it kills me to see anybody losing their life. I'm trying to figure out what the IDF is bombing. I mean, the whole fucking place is in rubble right now. All right. What are you bombing at this point in time? So isn't it time to stop? Isn't it time to force Hamas now out of their caves, bring the remaining hostages out, call this thing quits so that people can start to have a normal life? Do you know how long it's going to take to rebuild Gaza? It's 170 square miles, much of which has been obliterated. So my question again remains, what the hell is the IDF blowing up? They've blown up everything. I just don't get it. This is like a weird scenario. It's Benjamin Netanyahu keeping the anger and the fury and the fighting going for his own purpose.
Yeah. And by the way, I think that it's also, I'm pro-Palestinian state. I'd like to see a Palestinian state. I'm pro-peace when it comes down to it, more than I'm pro-peace. I want to see these neighbors living side by side in peace. And that's a promise that Donald Trump made, that he lied, and he's made things worse. And he's enabled Netanyahu, to your point, Cohen, to continue to go on and go it alone and commit atrocities for himself. That ain't helping Israel right now. Like, he's not helping. The long-term damage that's being done to Israel right now, as if he thinks it's making it stronger, quite the contrary. Anyway, our producers saying
Israeli people don't want this to keep.
They don't want this protest.
They don't want their soldiers to be out in the fields or invading Gaza. They want their kids home. They want them studying. They want them building a life instead of putting their lives on the line over something. Oh, you can't blow up rubble that's already been blown up.
Our producers saying we only have one quick break. When we come back, Cohen's going to give the 2-finger salute. Reminder, subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube page at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack, The Michael Cohen Substack. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. Subscribe to the Midas Touch Substack. We'll be right back after a quick break.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now look, you and I make decisions every day. But on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Look, I'm so excited to see Saquon Barkley take the field this season. I'm thinking in that the first game, he can even have more than one rushing touchdown. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. And you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. So join millions of users and sign up today. Download the app today and use code BEATDOWN to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code BEATDOWN, BEATDOWN, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Cohen, I'm going to make it very difficult for you to determine who to give the two-finger salute to, but I'm going to tee it up. I'm going to show you. Why is it easy?
Listen, I'm going to give our brigaders a little hint. The asshole's initials are KP. I mean, there is nobody who deserves it more than KP.
Well, let you see. You didn't even. This is Eager Beaver Cohen is ready to go. Class pet. You're standing there, front row. Teacher, can I please?
Pick me.
Okay, here it is right here. So, Attorney General Pam Bondi is asked, who killed Charlie Kirk? Kash Patel's boss, Pam Bondi, says the following. Let's play the clip.
Yes, who killed Charlie? Left-wing radicals, and they will be held accountable. So will anyone in this country who commits a violent crime against anyone. And the death penalty, thanks to...
All right, so we know it wasn't left-wing radicals. It was a 22-year-old white kid from a MAGA, not sure what was going on with the screen there, guy Tyler Robinson from a MAGA family, gun-toting Republican family. Doesn't seem to be, I went through the charging documents, and you go through all the charging documents. The mom was suggesting because the son was potentially gay, that's why he's had leftist views, because he was potentially gay. But there's nothing there's quite literally nothing in there that even was like, I'm doing this because I'm a radical leftist or I'm a Democrat. Like that just doesn't exist. So they've wanted from the outset to say the shooter was trans, the bullets are trans, the roommate was the one who rubbed off on him, the trans roommate rubbed off on him. And it's like, just stop doing that. Just let's realize that we need common sense gun reform. Let's realize that there are young men, often young white men, who go down this internet meme war rabbit hole isolated thing. Let's address the issue. So anyway, now I'll show you Kash Patel. I just wanted to say that because I want to give you options right here going. So Kash Patel testifies on Capitol Hill today before the Senate. And MAGA Republican Senator Kennedy says, okay, so who else was Epstein sex trafficking with? If you've read the files. By the way, Kash Patel has said before on his podcast, he was one of the main people saying, Epstein cabal with all these other men. And we all know, what Prince Andrew had to settle a case. Like we know, and I've spoken to all those Epstein lawyers. So the ones who sued him. So we know that Epstein would bring the girls to men's home. Like that was one of the things that he did. So what does Kash Patel say? Play the clip.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
What about Prince Andrew?
What about, because and by the way, the way he phrased it too.
Very lawyerly.
For the information that we have in the file. So what does he mean there, Cohen? That the file is now redacted and the names are removed. So in the file as it exists now, there is no, but we've removed those names before. We've created two files.
You should ask me about the information in the documents that we shredded, right? I mean, listen, let me be very clear. All right. Kash Patel, to me, is on his way out the door. He has made more mistakes. He is a detriment, if there could even be the concept of a detriment to this administration. There's something seriously wrong with him, whether it's the refusal to live in D.C., the private Air Force 2, 3, 4, whatever the aircraft is called, the fact that they keep harping on this, this matter with Epstein, and that his refusal to acknowledge it and acknowledge the reality of what was going on there. I mean, there's just so much here that is causing this administration tumult, right? And Cyrus, that he's basically probably one of the first that are going to get shit canned. I think there's going to be some major changes coming up very, very soon. But putting all that aside, the fact that he sat there, and I've watched so many now today, people talking about the exchange between Senator Cory Booker and Kash Patel, and look what it shows of Cory Booker. Fuck that, to be honest with you. All right, it was both sides doing what they needed to do. Cory Booker grandstanding to try to now go raise money off. I showed Kash Patel. Kash Patel playing to a party of one. That's President Trump. I think Kash Patel, for the position that he's actually in, is a detriment, not just to Trump and this administration, not just to this country, but to the entire world. I mean, he is allowing, how is it that we are allowing this performative art bullshit to take place in our government every single day? We look stupid to the world. Nobody is going to trust us to do anything. No one's going to trust the FBI to get involved in anything when you have the leader as Kash Patel. Just his behavior to everybody today up there on the Hill is so deserving of the two-finger salute. So, Kash, honestly, stay the fuck off of our aircraft. Go fuck yourself. Either move to D.C. or go back to Vegas and become the gambler that you probably are.
So put yourself into the mind of a real estate developer who is buying up property on a block, and they bought up all the houses except one house remains that's kind of right there, in the center. But you bought all the property, and you have a plan where you want to basically plow it all down and then build up a massive mall or a building. So, Cohen, what do you do as a real estate developer? What's the Trumpian tactic that you do to that one home right there if you control all of the homes around it, right?
Well, I think what you're referring to is what took place in Atlantic City, where there was one property that refused to sell to Donald Trump. And so what they did is they built this massive, massive casino, and they left the house in the dead center. The way they structured it and they placed it, the house remained there, but it was basically in the dead center of a parking lot. All right.
And so you want to make it as uncomfortable, as pain in the ass, as loud. So eventually the person says, all right, I'm moving. Why am I bringing up this reference right now? Does Donald Trump like the FBI?
No, he does not. In fact, he's got a lot of problems with them because they raided what he claims to be his home, which of course is Mar-a-Lago.
So if you wanted to destroy the FBI, but you can't act, and you wanted to humiliate it as well. You want to destroy and humiliate it, but you can't just get rid of it because it's the FBI, and it would be too overt. What would your move be? Your move would be you'd
put somebody like Kash Patel in as the director. And if you're not going to put Kash Patel in, maybe you put Jeanine Pirro. If not Jeanine Pirro, put in Jesse Waters. If not Jesse Waters, then Brian Kilmeade, right? 4 people who together as a foursome are incompetent within which to take on that role. Right? That's what you do. So you make the FBI look as stupid as possible, as incompetent. Like, you know what he's really making the FBI look like? What was the name of the Keystone Cops? He's making Kash Patel look like the head of the Keystone Cops.
And that's the outcome that he wants. And so I think people who go, oh, this is embarrassing to him. I think Trump loves the FBI looking stupid right now. Like, I think he actually, like, Trump doesn't give a shit that Americans are more dangerous, that we're in a more dangerous position. If Trump's personally, physically okay, he doesn't care, you know, about these things. So remember, it wasn't just Kash, right? It's Kash. It's Dan Bongino, another right-wing podcaster. And then the head of counterterrorism. They removed the top 30-year veteran. And who do they put in? Thomas Fugate III, a 22-year-old intern with zero law enforcement. And you make all the other FBI people report to a 22-year-old intern with zero law enforcement back. That's what you do.
You know what it reminds me of? Honestly, if we can get a camera into that office when they're having a meeting. Do you remember, Ben? I mean, remember, because I'm older than you. There was a television show called Benny Hill, The Benny Hill Show. Have you ever seen The Benny Hill Show? No? So this guy, they used to run around this table, and he used to slap this little short black guy in the head all the time. And he goes, ding, 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 as he's literally slapping the guy across the top of his bald head. And it's hysterical. That's what I guarantee you is going on inside. You got Kash Patel chasing this 22-year-old and so on. This is, to me, the stupidest thing, right? At least a bunch of our brigaders remember the Benny Hill Show, right? This is, you got to watch, Google one, Ben, tonight if you promise me you will.
The show lasted from 1955 to 1989.
There you go. It lasted a long time. It is hysterical, all right? It is guaranteed. You have, as Benny Hill, you have Kash Patel chasing people around, whether it's the young girls in like bikinis or it's the old bald guy that he's slapping on top of the head. This is how stupid that they look. And I want to, again, now turn to the serious statement. Not only are they putting the United States of America in danger, they're putting the entire world in danger, and we cannot have it, which is why I implore each and every one of you, every episode, share Midas Touch Network with one person. Tell one person to join, have over 10, 12 million. And then, by the way, we do the same thing again. You know, if the goal is to win in 2026, how do you win? You got to create, almost like what Charlie Kirk had going with Turning Point USA. You have to create an organization so big, so powerful, so loud. But we're big, we're powerful, we're loud for good. Not racism, sexism, misogyny, not xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. No, it's for peace and love and for doing the right thing and for process and for the Constitution. That's what it's supposed to be about. We need to build the largest possible community, and that is your job. That's what we ask. That's what I ask every single episode. So please do your part. Your part is not just about commenting. It's about helping to grow this community to be so big, so strong, so loud that our voices cannot be ignored.
Apparently, everybody watches the Benny Hill Show. I mean,
except for you.
Well, because I was born, it wasn't. I would have caught it up until I was 4 years old before it went off the air. But based on the audience's response to this Benny Hill Show, it seems that it's something we need to.
It was a good reference.
Maybe in the future when we live in a normal political environment and I don't need to do 12 hot takes anymore in a single day, I will revitalize the Benny Hill Show. I'll create a Benny Hill YouTube channel or you and I, I could we could do slapstick.
Me and the brothers. Well, we could sit there and chase each other around the desk.
I'll chase you. I'll go to New York. I'll chase Cohen. You know. Oh man, we could reenact. We can reenact your Trump.
We'll all cry.
We could reenact your Trump days together. We could. Everybody, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Do me a favor, subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel. It's called The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast. Subscribe to the Midas Touch audio podcast. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack. Subscribe to our Substack, the Midas Touch Substack. It's going to be, the fight for democracy and winning the hearts and minds with truth, with facts, with empathy, with love. We gotta strap in. Right now is a pivotal moment, a pivotal stretch as we head into 2026. Really is critical, and we've done great. I mean, together as a team. You watching this, right? I think that Trump expected to have full control of all of the levers of government in about the first 100 days. And now we're plus 200 days, and we're going to get through that first year together. But you can see as Trump gets closer to the midterms, he's getting more and more nervous. He's accelerating all of the authoritarian stuff, and that's going to require us and our movement to continue to accelerate and to grow. And so that's why, as Cohen said, please help out, share this network with as many people as you can, get the word out. That the word of mouth here is so key. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown. Shout out Brigaders and shout out Midas Mike.
Boom.